Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 49ers Quality Control. I am your unofficial self-appointed quality control coach, Grant Cohn, also known as Iggy. And I've found the underlying root cause of the 49ers inconsistency, which is the defining characteristic of this team, the 2021 49ers, who are 6-6, the essence of mediocre. So I'm going to get to that. But first, there's breaking news. Kyle Shanahan spoke today, and it was on a conference call. I just got home from Seattle. Been a long day. Whew. Kyle Shanahan spoke on a conference call. Had some injury updates. Emmanuel Moseley, high ankle sprain, going to be out a while. This is a tough one for the 49ers because he's their only good cornerback. And now without him, their starters are going to be Josh Norman and Dante Johnson. Either Josh Norman and Dante Johnson or Josh Norman and Diamador Lenore. I don't think that's either one is a good combination. So the Niners are going to have a real problem in the second, more than usual, because Mosley's actually an asset. So in the short term, the issue is how are they going to win games without Emmanuel Moseley? Diamador Lenore I think he lasted a quarter against the Seahawks before. He gave up 14 points. He was essentially responsible for 14 points before he got benched at halftime. He's a liability. I don't know what they've been doing with him in practice, but all the good things he did in training camp, he's not building on and seems to have regressed. So I don't think they can play him. It seems like their starters are going to be Dante Johnson and Josh Norman. If I told you before the season that the Niners were going to go down the stretch with Josh Norman and Dante Johnson as their starting corners, how many games do you think they were going to win? I mean, it's tough to win with Dante Johnson on the field. Now, he did have that forced fumble. That was nice. I think he has had 2 of those this year. Good. Josh Norman and Dante Johnson really can punch those balls out. Coverage, not so good. And, if they're going against a team with a good wide receiver like, I don't know, Cincy, could be an issue. So that's the short-term issue. Winning games without Emmanuel Moseley is going to be tricky. And then long-term, I was going on and on about how much I like Emmanuel Moseley and how he was a great signing, and he was because he's still cheap. But the painful reality here is that Emmanuel Moseley's not reliable. This is too important of a position to have someone who misses 4 games a year. He missed 4 games last year. He could miss more than 4 games this year. Love Emmanuel Moseley, but the Niners need 2 starting corners heading into next year. That's the way they got to look at it. And if they want Emmanuel Moseley to be a starter next year, great. But you have to have a backup who's starting caliber. And it's not Dante Johnson. It's not Drake Kirkpatrick, Diamador Lenore, someone good. Because you can't really, really depend on Emmanuel Moseley. He gets injured. Ankle. Going to be a while, according to Kyle Shanahan, if he comes back at all this year. High ankle sprain. Big deal. Moving on. Elijah Mitchell. He got injured in this game. He was down on the ground for a while. Looked like I'm not sure if he was unconscious, but he clearly got hit in the head. He got that elbow to the head. It looked almost like a dirty play, if not a dirty play. Got checked out by an independent NFL-appointed doctor. Came back to the game, finished the game, went home, had concussion symptoms, reported him to the team. Now he's day-to-day. He's in the concussion protocol. So, first of all, that's 2 games in a row that the Niners have had a player get a concussion, go to the tent, get cleared, come back, and then get diagnosed with a concussion the next day. Can they do better? Aren't they trying to? Not the Niners, but can't the league do better here? Can't they err on the side of caution? Isn't this something they're trying to fix, address? Anyway, so there's that. But the other thing is Elijah Mitchell. He may not play next week. That's the one thing. And the thing about Elijah Mitchell is he's not the greatest. He's not Raheem Mostert. Mostert is much more explosive. Mitchell, what he gives the offense is volume. He can run the ball a lot in a game, which is important because the Niners' winning formula is to keep Jimmy Garoppolo to throwing fewer than 30 passes. So you need a lot of carries, and Mitchell gives that to you. That's very important because as important as good as Debo Samuel is, you can't really ask him to run the ball more than 8-9 times a game. because he gets hurt. He's not going to run the ball 27 times, Debo. Elijah Mitchell will. So again, if he doesn't play, the Niners are going to have to go back to winning while throwing a lot, which is something they don't really do very well. I'm going to talk about that later. So I'm not saying he won't play this week, but we have no idea if Elijah Mitchell will play this week. Also, Jeff Wilson Jr. aggravated his knee, the knee injury that's kept him out the first half of the year. That seemed like it's been inhibiting him the last few weeks. He's day-to-day. So Mitchell might not play. Sermon's on IR. Wilson's banged up. The only really healthy running back is JaMychal Hasty, who barely ever plays. So now the Niners once again are in a position where they have a quarterback who wins when his running backs do well and all of his running backs are hurt. What are they going to do? Is this team going to make the playoffs? I don't know. That's a question for another day. But if Elijah Mitchell doesn't play next week, I'm not sure they'll beat the Bengals. They'll have to beat the Bengals with Jimmy throwing a lot. Big picture here, Elijah Mitchell looks like he should be the starting running back for a long time for the 49ers, but this is his fourth injury this season. I'm losing track of what he had. A collarbone, he had ribs, he had the shoulder, it was the collarbone, and then he had finger and now a concussion. He does run the ball a lot, but he's not that big and he's very violent, but it seems like his body takes a toll. Maybe a bigger toll than the defenders he's hitting. Can I talk today? I don't know. So it seems like you're going to need to get more running backs. Running back is still a position in need. The Niners should probably draft a running back every year, not in round 3, but in round 6 or round 7. Good spot to draft a running back. They need more guys like Elijah Mitchell. Ideally, they would have 3 Elijah Mitchells. So they could rotate him, keep him fresh. No reason to keep giving Elijah Mitchell 20 carries because he can't handle it, even though he gets through the game. He just isn't available next week. So that's not good news either, injury-wise, for the 49ers. How much in draft picks do you think we would get if we trade Kyle Banana Hands? 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and $20 million? A lot. Go back and look at what the Raiders got for what's his face? John Gruden. Let's say the Vikings fire Mike Zimmer and they feel like they're just one coach away. Maybe Kyle Shanahan. Where's David Lombardi's dad, Vish, today? He's doing finals. He'll be back next week. So let him live. Let's talk about Debo Samuel's magic number. First of all, Kyle Shanahan updated Debo Samuel's injury status today on the conference call and said that Fred Warner was closer to returning this past week than Debo, and that they expect Fred Warner to be at practice on Wednesday. Less clear with Debo. And all he would say is that he's day-to-day, and they're hopeful that he will play this week. Now, 1 to 2 week injury, they called it. It seems like what they're saying is Warner is most likely going to play this week. Debo, this could be a 2-week injury. And also, he's so important to the team, they probably shouldn't rush him back. They're in a tough spot, though. With all these running backs out, they may feel they can't win without Debo Samuel. I mean, if you can't beat the Seahawks without Debo Samuel, the 3-8 Seahawks are now 4-8. Are you going to beat 7-5? Is that what they are? Bengals without him? I'm not sure. Anyway, that's the injury news for Debo Samuel. Not as close to returning as Fred Warner, but could return this weekend. Now, I want to talk about why I feel Debo Samuel is the MVP of the league and why the Niners would have won had they had him yesterday. And they might be able to win, to go on a run in the playoffs with Debo Samuel if he stays healthy. It's a wild stat. I'm calling it Debo Samuel's magic number. When the 49ers give Debo Samuel at least 3 carries this season, that's it. Just 3 or more. More than 2. When the Niners give Debo Samuel more than 2 carries, they're undefeated. 3 or more. 3-0. Okay? All right, now, I'm going to blow your mind on this. When they give him 2 carries, just 2 exactly, they're 1-1, 500, okay? And when they give him 1 or fewer carries, 1 or 0, 1 or 0 carries. They're 2-5 this season. 2-5. Now, I'm not saying that all the Niners have to do is give the first 3 plays of the game to Debo, hand off to Debo, they win. I'm not saying that. I just feel like this stat really underscores what he's doing for the team. Moving him to running back and just handing him the ball has changed the entire complexion of the season for the 49ers. Because here's the thing about playing Debo wide receiver. He's a good wide receiver, but he's limited by his quarterback, who can't throw the ball to all the places on the field. He can only throw them to certain parts of the field. And he's limited by the fact that he drops a lot of passes. So if you give Debo Samuel 10 targets a game, which is what the Niners were giving him early on, they're all going to be in the same part of the field because of Jimmy Garoppolo, and he'll drop at least one of those passes, maybe 2, sometimes 3. So better to just turn to him and hand off, especially since he's averaging 9.5 yards per carry. So look, if he comes back next week and they can use him the way they've been using him, give him 3 carries, 3 to 6, 3 to 8, history says they'll win. They just have to get him healthy and keep using him the right way. Debo Samuel's magic number bodes well for the 49ers. Such a simple thing to do. But is it sustainable? I don't know. 3 carries. Something to think about. Mosley's out. Season's over. Start Trey. Thank you, Loki Smoke. Sorry. Smash that like button. Start Trey. Sit Jimmy to save trade value. That's true, right? The more they play Jimmy, the more he hurts his trade value. On that play action toward the end of the game, why did they not let Trey do it? Where are those packages? Oh, Kyle doesn't want to do that anymore. And when you ask him about it, he gets really upset. Like there's no reason that he shouldn't even ask about it. Like shouldn't have to answer about it. Let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo's magic number. So Debo Samuel's magic number is 3. Jimmy Garoppolo's magic number is 30. In the sense that in his career with the 49ers, including playoffs, when he throws fewer than 30 passes in a game, he's 18-4. When he throws 30 or more, 7-9. So I'll repeat that. Someone pointed this out on the Cohn phone this weekend. 29 or fewer, 18-4. 30 or more passes in a game, 7-9. How many passes did he have against the Seattle? 30. How many passes did he have in the Super Bowl? 31. Why is this a thing with Jimmy Garoppolo? Well, Jimmy Garoppolo is turnover prone. In 10.5 games this year, he has 11 turnovers, 12 if you count the safety. That's okay if you have big plays, you make big plays and throw a lot of touchdown passes. He doesn't do that. Brady has 10 turnovers and 34 touchdown passes. Jimmy has 11 turnovers and 15 touchdown passes. The turnovers come at a high rate. The big plays do not. So the more snaps he has, the more pass attempts he gets, the more likely he is to turn the ball over and lose the game for you. So the whole game is taking the ball out of Jimmy's hands. Let's see how few amount of times we can have him pass. If you have a great running game and you ask him to throw, less than 30 times, he's a decent quarterback. He's pretty good because he's actually good on third down. In the sense that if it's 3rd and 11, he'll throw 12 yards. If it's 3rd and 12, he'll throw 13 yards. He wants to throw past the mark. He wants to pick up the first down. He has the right mentality. He's aggressive. He has the quick release. And he will move the chains, allow the Niners to keep running the ball. That's what he does well. The problem is those aren't really big plays. And they come at a price. If you're the kind of quarterback who has the mentality, I'm going to pick up all these third downs, I'm going to be aggressive throwing the ball over the middle, well, it's going to come with picks too. And I think he has 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions on third down this year. Comes at a price. Turnovers. So you get some third down conversions, but you're not getting big plays. That you don't get big plays from Jimmy's legs, not from his arm, and you get a lot of turnovers. So there's no reason to want him to throw a lot. The big plays come when he's hands off. And that's why you can't pay this guy $27 million. It's fine to have a quarterback who is a good complement to a running game. But you pay nothing for that. That's cheap. If you're paying a guy $27 million a year, a franchise quarterback is someone who isn't dependent on his team running for 150 yards, his team limiting his attempts to 27 or fewer. That's not a franchise quarterback. I mean, I don't have to explain that every week, but it's interesting to like put it in perspective when people say, "Oh, he's a winner, he's a winner, he's a winner." Yeah, if his running game's going, if he doesn't have to throw 30 times, as soon as the game is put on his shoulders, he's a losing quarterback. And that's what Pete Carroll exposes every time they play. He shuts down the run game. He puts the game on Jimmy's shoulders, and Jimmy loses more than he wins in those situations. That's what happens. Magic number is 30. Answer some questions. The offense and defense never seem in sync. One week, the offense is Super Bowl caliber, and the defense lines bad. The next week, the opposite. Debo is the 49ers. Yeah, that's the mark of a bad team or a mediocre team. It's always, they can't get it all going at the same time. Good point. Do you think Debo is what Kyle thought Hurd was supposed to be? Yes, I do. I think Kyle thought Jalen Hurd was going to do all the stuff that Debo's doing now and is surprised that it's Debo. Grant went to game in Jacksonville, met a dude that says he is a team doc at Atlanta. Talk about Kyle by first name. Kind of wonder if he was there for the Niner interview. Could not find him online, but he did seem legit. Oh, give us some dirt. What'd he say? Give us some gossip. Emmanuel Mosley out 4 to 6 weeks, high ankle sprain. Uh-oh. That's not good. That's a no good. 4 to 6 weeks, that sounds like the rest of the season. Right? They have 5 games left, no? Uh-oh. Okay, let's talk about the root of the 49ers inconsistency. After the game, I asked Kyle Shanahan why his team was so unprepared for such a big game. I mean, I said, Kyle, you went on the radio and said, it's going to be a really close game. But is it hard to prepare your players despite saying that when they know it's a 3-8 team? And he bristled at it. Like, what do you mean? I was like, well, your team played poorly. They didn't look prepared. And he wouldn't agree. He said, well, that's sports. Sometimes you just lose and play poorly. He wouldn't agree that the team was unprepared. I thought that was kind of obvious. I mean, I thought that's why he was saying during the week, look, Seattle's better than their record. I bet you this comes down to the last possession. Why are you saying that? Because you're worried your team is going to take Seattle lightly, right? 3-8, just lost to Washington. You're trying to hype up your opponent so that your team takes them seriously, and they don't. And you have totally unprepared, 10 penalties, 3 turnovers plus a safety. And he's like, no, we weren't unprepared. Which made me think, oh, right, because that means you're in charge of preparation. Head coach is in charge of more than just the game plan and the play calling. It's also having your guys prepared emotionally and mentally to play a freaking football game, 60 minutes. You didn't do that. But he won't admit to that. So that got me thinking, okay, they were unprepared in this game. How many times this season have they been unprepared? And how many of their losses can you chalk up not being prepared as a major factor? I went through all of them, and I think it's all 6. So let's go through and see if being unprepared is not the root cause of the 49ers inconsistency. Week 3, the 49ers are 2-0 at home against the Packers. Their starting cornerbacks in this game are Josh Norman and Emmanuel Mosley. I believe this is Norman's first start. Lenoir had started, been kind of rough, got benched. Norman goes down mid-game, bruised lungs, has to spend the night in the hospital. Lenoir comes in and looks totally freaking unprepared. He looked okay the first couple of weeks, and this one, right off the bat, 25-yard defensive pass interference penalty. And then with the game on the line, misses an assignment, plays zone while the rest of the defense plays man. Didn't just get beat, just didn't know what to do. Utterly unprepared. Niners lose because Deommodore Lenoir not prepared to play. I mean, that's the mark of an unprepared team. A guy comes in, a backup has to play, and it looks like he didn't practice all week. Like he got no reps with the starters and was running scout team all week. That was one mark. Week 3, Deommodore Lenoir not being fit to play in that game. He never should have been on the field. If that's how he was going to play, it should have been Dante Johnson, just like it was in this game. Lenoir comes on the field in this last game. Is so bad they have to go immediately to Dante Johnson. That's what should have happened in this game too. He was not prepared or whatever. Week 3. Week 4, the first game against Seattle. Okay. This is the one when Robbie Gould goes down pregame with a groin injury. Now, you might think in this situation, Kyle Shanahan would have a plan. You know, if the kicker ever goes down pregame, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go for 2. We're going to go for on 4th down. I mean, we've seen him go for 4th down 5 times in a game this year. We're not going to kick any field goals. No, that's not what he did. His plan is to use his punter as the kicker. He was not prepared to lose a kicker pregame. Could happen. Wasn't prepared. Attempts a 41-yard kick with Mitch Wishnowsky. Really happened in this season. He missed it. Also missed an extra point. Could have just not kicked the 41-yard field goal. Could have just gone for 2. Also in that game, Trent Cannon fumbled a kickoff twice on the same play. Seahawks recovered deep in the Niners territory. I'm not saying that's being unprepared. That's just terrible special teams. That's another thing. But that would be a theme this season too. Terrible special teams play. Like, just let the ball bounce into the end zone or something. The Niners probably would have won that game if Trent Cannon had just let the ball bounce into the end zone rather than try to catch it. The Niners would probably have a better record right now if they had let all kickoffs just bounce as opposed to trying to return them. That's how bleak things are. Okay, that's the second example of lack of preparation. Mitch Wishnowsky attempting field goals. Week 5 in Arizona. Garoppolo's out. Trey Lance has to play. But Kyle Shanahan hasn't spent any time preparing Trey Lance to play this season. He hasn't taken any meaningful first-team reps. And when he did, he was the wildcat quarterback. He would fake a handoff and then run between the tackles. And that's exactly how the Niners use him because that's what they prepared him to do all year, is to be this Taysom Hill gadget quarterback. And that's how we use him. They're not prepared. They haven't adequately prepared their backup quarterback to play. And they use a gadget offense that has nothing to do with their offense. They only let him hand off 9 times and lose, despite their defense holding the number 1 offense in the league to 17 points. They were not prepared for They were not prepared for Jimmy Garoppolo to get hurt and to play a game without him. Weren't prepared. You think like, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo missed 10 games last year. You brought in a new guy. We don't want him to start right away, but Jimmy misses games, so we're going to sprinkle in reps every week for Trey Lance, so he's ready just in case Jimmy Garoppolo has to miss a week and a half. Nope, they don't do that. And so when Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, they have to try to win a game with the wildcat quarterback, or that's how they use him. Weren't prepared for Jimmy Garoppolo. They were not prepared for Jimmy Garoppolo to miss a game. That was week 5. Week 7, after a bye week, 14 days to prepare to play a rain game against a team that plays their home games in a dome, the Indianapolis Colts. All week, Kyle Shanahan says they're not practicing with the wet ball. Who knows why? You know, sometimes you'll have a water boy just spray water on the ball before every play like it's raining. Niners didn't do that. Colts did. Colts won by 12. Did not prepare properly for a rain game. Had 2 weeks to do it. Had the home field advantage. Going against a team that plays their home games in a dome. Lost by 12. Week 9. Arizona again. This time, Kyler Murray doesn't play. Now, this news wasn't known until right before kickoff. The Cardinals are being coy. Now we knew that we know now that Kyler would go on to sit for 3 weeks, but this is week 1. The Cardinals are coy. They say he might play. The Niners say we're preparing for Kyler Murray. We're preparing for Kyler Murray. As if they're so good that the Cardinals are scared and they're going to rush Kyler Murray, an injured Kyler Murray on the field, just to maybe possibly beat the Niners, but probably more likely lose. Nope. They play Colt McCoy. The Niners are not emotionally, mentally, in any way prepared for him. Lose by 14 to Colt freaking McCoy. Clearly, they were not prepared in any way to play that game. And they got embarrassed at home by 14 to Colt McCoy. And in this last game, you want to talk about not being prepared. Everyone knows the Seahawks have your number. They're desperate. You got to have this game to call yourself a contender. You give up a punt return for a touchdown, a fake punt for a touchdown right off the bat. You weren't expecting the Seahawks to try something like that. They're 3-8. They're at home. They're desperate. You didn't expect to see a fake punt at any time. Not prepared for a fake punt. 10 penalties. 3 turnovers. A safety. I mean, no one was prepared for anything. K'Wan Williams had an intercepted gifted to him because Gerald Everett decided he didn't want to catch a touchdown pass. Said he wanted to kick it to K'Wan Williams, who caught the ball in the end zone, then returned to the 3-yard line instead of just going down, getting it to 20. Gets to the 3 plays later, Jimmy Garoppolo sacked for a safety. I mean, there's more. Again, Lenore has to come in the game. Mosley goes out. Lenore comes in, totally unfreaking prepared. He gives up the long catch to DK Metcalf. Then he has defensive pass interference penalty, like the next play in the end zone, which sets up the 1-yard TD run. That's 7 points on him. Then later on, he gives up the catch to D. Eskridge right in front of him and misses the tackle. That's 14 points right there on because Diamador Lenore was in a game, even though he shouldn't have been, and was totally unfreaking prepared. And then you got Trent Sherfield, who replaced Debo Samuel and had 2 penalties. All these guys that step in this year for the starters are unprepared. Is there anything else I'm missing? Missed an extra point. And Kyle Shanahan's had the nerve to say the team was prepared. It seems to me that the problem is they don't really have a head coach. They have a play caller, a play designer. And while he's focused on the right plays to call in what sequence, he's not focusing on these little details. And when something happens, when his kicker goes down, when a cornerback goes down, he can't cope. And he thinks that being a great coach is having the best offense or the best scheme or the best script. It's part of it. Bill Belichick is very good with his defense, but when people think about why Bill Belichick's the best head coach, it doesn't really have that much to do with his defense. You're not really talking about his defensive numbers. You always talk about how prepared his team is for all situations. That's what it is. It's not like, he is a great defensive coach. That's just the start of it with Belichick. As a head coach, his team is prepared for all situations. Anything weird happens in a game, they practice that. They've talked about that. They've simulated that. The Niners, Mosley goes down. Oh my God, what are we going to do? So it seems to me that the root of the Niners' issue is they don't have a head coach. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is limited, but he's a decent quarterback. He's 18-4 when he doesn't throw too much. Kyle over here, for example, if Jimmy Garoppolo was cheaper, you could probably win a Super Bowl. If he was cheaper and you had a really good running game and a really good defense, you could probably win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know if you can win a Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan as a head coach. I don't know if you can win a Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan as a coordinator. He's had 2 chances. But he just doesn't prepare his guys well. He's in X's and O land. He's thinking about X's and O's at all times. Think about that. I asked you and your father this before, and I'm asking you again. Grant, do you think Kyle ever going to be over 500 as a head coach? He seems to be overrated. No, I don't think he will. He's John Gruden 2.0. And Gruden was over 500. Did you see Laura Britt, Staley Whitner, and Spikes made fun of your question on Kyle 49ers postgame? Does Staley really not like you that much? I don't know. He's always nice to me in person. No, I didn't hear him make fun of my question, but it was a good question, right? I find it interesting that people that, first of all, NBC is partners with the Niners. So is KNBR. So those people are like currying favor with the team. Also, anyway, they're friends with people on the team too. Their instinct is to attack or criticize a question after. Easier to criticize me than it is to criticize the team when you work for NBC. Because if you criticize the Niners a little too much working for NBC, you won't be working for NBC too long. They'll find someone else. Same with KMBR. Me, I can say whatever the hell I want. See, I think that's why you guys like me. So, Staley, keep doing that. Allow me to stand out. Thank you, Joe. NBC Bay Area threw shade at you for asking that G. That's why I'm popular, because these people pressure themselves into being vanilla. So that's cool. I don't think they're reading the room right now. You know, I asked the doc about soft tissue injuries. He stated that if there is multiple, it is not good. Carefully on how he answered my question. I hear you, voice ad agency. Grant, your theories on why they don't want to start Trey. I'm going to get there. Hey, Grant, as quality control, which would you say shows more of Kyle's genius? Read option with Jimmy or kicking field goals with punter? Oh, they're equal, but they're both, I mean, they're both just chef's kiss. I asked him why he called the read option with Jimmy. He said because he didn't expect the quarterback to keep the ball. Then why'd you call the play? What are you doing? Niners need a complete change with anybody in a position of authority, Kyle included. Teams should be in a better position to sustain success. I saw someone on Twitter say that no one has done less with more than Kyle Shanahan this season. I think that's well put. Usually say like the coach of the year is the guy who does the most with the least, right? Gets the most out of the least. Well, Shanahan's getting the least out of the most. It's a very talented team. Very talented team. Arguably has the MVP. And then the MVP goes down, and the other guy, the number 2 guy on the offense, goes for 181 and 2 touchdowns. Very talented team. 6-6. No one's doing less with more than Kyle Shanahan. Iggy, it is an effing train wreck. Kyle can't do the job. I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you. They are partisan hacks. Fire Shanahan after Luke Fickell the job. Oh, okay. Offer Luke Fickell. Yeah, man. I mean, like when these people make fun of me and defend the Niners after a loss, that to me, the way I look at it is, man, you guys just made me more popular. You're not reading Niner fans right now. They're not trying to hear that. They're trying to hear someone hold the team accountable, and all you're saying is that it's not going to be you. Good, Joe. Be friends with the players in the team. All right, let's talk about this offseason plan that the Niners had that was always ridiculous. First of all, the Niners basically said all they got to do is have a better backup quarterback. They'll be good. The only reason that they missed the playoffs and didn't go to the Super Bowl last year is because Nick Mullins wasn't good enough. So any other problems the team had, no problem. Just spend a lot of money, put a lot of resources into the quarterback spot. So this year, the Niners are spending about $33 million on their quarterback position, a position where you can only play one dude at a time, and they've made it real clear they're only going to play one dude this year. Meanwhile, they're spending $13 million on cornerback. That's a position where 3 guys play at a time, and it's extremely important, and guys get hurt and go down all the time because they're running very fast. I think this shows a misunderstanding of the market, of the way football has evolved. Yes, quarterback is the most important position, but it's not the most difficult position to play anymore. I believe that. All the rules favor quarterback. You can't land on the quarterback after you hit him. You can't hit him too low. You can't hit him too high. You can't look at him out of the side of your you can't give him a side glance. You can't breathe on him a certain way. All the rules favor the quarterback and his receivers. None of the rules favor cornerbacks who have to cover the wide receivers who are catching the passes from the quarterbacks. It seems to me it's harder to find good cornerbacks. And when you do find them, they're cheaper to keep. You can get cheap, good quarterback play. Look at all the quarterbacks drafted last year. All of them are good. Every single one. Herbert, Tua, Burrow, Hurts, all of them. They're all playing well. And they're super cheap. So they're really outperforming their contract. Not hard. Chances are if you draft a quarterback in round 1, he's going to be good enough to justify what you pay him and what you drafted him. Cornerback, the Niners' plan was to go cheap at the most difficult position to play in the NFL. Why? You think you can just find anyone who can hang stride for stride with some of these all-pro wide receivers? Why? I don't think you're really quite understanding how difficult it is these days to play that position and how screwed you are if you don't have guys who are at least competent. When you're down to the Josh Norman, Dante Johnson level, I think it's hard to win games, even if you do have the MVP on your team and he's Debo Samuel. Real hard. So the offseason plan was like a 1997 offseason plan. Let's put a bunch of resources at quarterback, and who cares about corner? We'll just score a bunch of points and have a good pass rush. No, not in 2021. Not in 2021. You should have put some real resources into the quarterback. And what's interesting is that, okay, so you bring in Trey Lance, but you've pretty much made it clear that you don't want him to play this year, and you're not preparing him to do so. So if Jimmy Garoppolo were to get hurt, we would expect more of the same with Lance, right? More runs between the middle, just using him as a running back. So even drafting him didn't help you this season. He's not making any kind of, it's basically a total redshirt year for Trey Lance. So the plan was to spend a bunch of draft picks and money on a quarterback that you don't want to play. And don't spend any more money and resources at cornerback and hope that Emmanuel Mosley and Jason Verrett make it through the season. Yikes. Well, maybe they'll have a better plan next year. I don't know. Now let's talk about the other part of the plan. Sitting Trey Lance. Something's really weird here. The fact that the Niners wouldn't play Trey Lance on that 4th and 1 zone read shows you that there's like a reason beyond football that he's not playing. Any casual football fan understands that if that was the call you wanted to go to on 4th and 1 zone read, that you'd be better off running that with Trey Lance. If you wanted the quarterback to hand it off, better to do it with Trey Lance because he's going to draw more attention, right? If you wanted the quarterback to keep the ball, better to do it with Trey Lance because he's an athlete and Jimmy Garoppolo plays football like he's wearing combat boots, right? If you want to run the zone read on 4th and 1, that's the play for Trey Lance. The correct football play is to put Trey Lance in the game for that play. It doesn't start a quarterback controversy. It's just the correct football play. Kyle did it with Jimmy Garoppolo. He got hit, didn't make it, plus there was a penalty, didn't count. So what the hell is going on? What's the real reason they're sitting Trey Lance? What's the real reason they're sitting Trey Lance? I think it's pretty simple. I think Kyle Shanahan decided this was the best plan of action before the season started. And no amount of evidence is going to make him change his mind. He made up his mind, and he's going to stick to it. And the fact that there's so much outside pressure from us, from the fans, from me, telling him to change his mind, he's just going to dig in. And I think the only way he would pivot to Trey Lance at this point is if everyone told him that Jimmy Garoppolo is the greatest and that they don't like Trey Lance and that Jimmy Garoppolo should stay forever. I think he just wants to go contrary to what people want him to do. So if we were to suddenly say, start Jimmy Garoppolo forever, we might get Trey Lance. But here's the thing. The real reason they're sitting Trey Lance is before the season, someone in this organization, John, Kyle, sat down and did some goodwill hunting math problem and decided that this team with Jimmy Garoppolo was a Super Bowl team and that it would be a shame and really unfair to everyone on this soon-to-be Super Bowl team if they didn't give Jimmy Garoppolo one last hurrah so they could see this through. And that's why Trey Lance isn't playing because he would to go to Trey Lance would be shortchanging a team that's destined for greatness. Cut to now, they're 6-6. That's not what ended up happening. What ended up happening is, and it's not to no fault of Jimmy Garoppolo's, the team is just mediocre. He's playing pretty well at times, but he can't elevate everyone else. He can't elevate Kyle Shanahan. The overall equation with Jimmy Garoppolo playing the way he usually does is just a 6-6 team. And so you're thinking like, what was the reason for not playing Trey Lance again? What was it? It was because they're going to the Super Bowl, right? But they're not going to the Super Bowl. So what is it? At this point, if I told you in August that the Niners are going to start the season 6-6 and not go to Trey Lance at any point, you tell me I'm messing with you. You would not agree with me. You would not believe me. Even the biggest Jimmy Garoppolo fans, you'd be like, "What? That doesn't make sense." Because it doesn't make sense. The only way to justify not giving Trey Lance time to develop on the job is being, 10-2 right now, 8-4. But they're 6-6. Imagine if they'd started Trey Lance week 1. Worst case scenario is they're probably 6-6 at this point. And even if they were like 5-7, they'd be right in the thick of it with the quarterback probably improving. It seems to me that even the season isn't even over, and it's hard for the Niners to justify what they've done. 6-6, you've wasted 3 months opportunity to get Trey Lance developed, to get him improved. Seems like a missed opportunity. You played Jimmy Garoppolo because you thought this year would be special. But at best, you're a 7 seed or a 6 seed. So the plan didn't work. The plan was a bust. And the sooner the 49ers can pivot away from it, the better. But they won't because they're dug in. If they were to go away from the plan now and start Trey Lance, it would just be them admitting that they got the last 3 months wrong. So once again, they're sticking with a bad hand because they've stuck with it for a long time. Why haven't they gotten rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? Because they've already paid him $100 million. It would look stupid. Why aren't they going to Trey Lance? Because they've already sat him this long. To go to him this late would look stupid. It's like, oh, it just dawned on you that it was a bad idea to sit him that long. Feels like a wasted year for him and for the organization. I mean, trading for a quarterback and not getting rid of the incumbent is unheard of. They justified it by saying, well, we're going to the Super Bowl. Now they're 6-6. There's no way to justify what they've done. Just a waste of a year. Now, people say like, well, it worked for the Chiefs. Worked for the Chiefs. Chiefs had Alex Smith. And then they drafted Patrick Mahomes, had him an entire year. Difference is, though, the Chiefs were 12-4 the year before they got Patrick Mahomes. The Niners are 6-10. The Chiefs knew they had a really good team. It was demonstrable. They were 12-4 the year before they brought in Mahomes. They're like, well, I mean, there's no reason to rush a rookie out there. We are a 12-4 team. The Niners are like, we were 13-3 2 years ago. So we can't play Trey Lance. You were 6-10 last year. You were 6-10 last year, and Jimmy was 3-3. Now you're 6-6. The whole idea of we're too good to play our rookie that we just traded for was ridiculous. No, you're 6-10. You're not that good. You were good 2 years ago. So sitting Trey Lance continues to make no sense. And now, I mean, again, like they're sitting him and it doesn't make football sense. They didn't play him on 4th and 1 when that was the right call. You didn't play him in a game against Seattle when I think mathematically you could prove essentially that he gave you the best chance to win. Without Debo Samuel, we talked about it in the week leading up. There was not going to be a run game without Debo Samuel. The Niners were going to average like 3 yards a carry at best. Jimmy was going to have to throw a lot. That's how they lose. And that's how it played out. If they had played Trey Lance, they would have had a running game. If they had played Trey Lance, I guarantee they would have averaged more than 2.8 yards per carry. So people be like, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is great for the run game because he converts those third downs. Yeah, he allows the Niners to run a lot, but he's not helping their efficiency. For a run-first team, they're middle of the pack in yards per carry. Trey Lance would have that skyrocket. Anyway, he's sitting, though. It doesn't make any sense, and it's unjustifiable. And when you ask about it, Kyle gives you this look like you just asked about his sex life or something. It's like, why are you asking me this? Like, I don't know, man. You traded for Trey Lance. I was over here talking about drafting an offensive tackle to replace Mike McGlinchey, and you moved up. I mean, I didn't even dislike Jimmy Garoppolo that much. You did. Doesn't he act like you're asking about his sex life? He's like, ew, why did you trade? That's private. It's personal. All right, let's answer some questions. Take it easy, Grant. Take it easy. It's personal. Jimmy was wearing steel toe. Yeah. Andrew, what's up, man? How you doing? Thank you. Hold on. Thanks for keeping it real. Thank you, Steven. Thank you for keeping it real. Sitting Trey Lance for next year to prepare him for what foundational team? Yeah. You could have gotten all this growing pains out of the way for Trey Lance and had him ready to go next year, but now next year will be another transitionary year. So the team went in spite of Jimmy, not because, yes. That's correct. Okay. Last thing. Hold on. Let me get this up. All right. Okay. The penalty thing. So I put out last night that the Niners were not prepared for this game and that Pete Carroll outcoached Kyle Shanahan. A lot of people push back on that. And they're like, well, the Seahawks made a bunch of mistakes too. They made just as many mistakes as the 49ers, and they did make a lot. 3 turnovers. Niners had 3, plus a safety. The big difference really between the Seahawks and the Niners in this game was the penalties. Niners had 10 penalties for 80-plus yards. The Seahawks had 6 penalties for 40 yards. So the Niners had more than double the Seahawks penalty yardage. And I pointed that out like that's a pretty stark difference. I'm talking about this here, the penalties. Big game, 10 penalties, unacceptable. And a lot of Niner fans went right to, oh, those are bad calls. Refs screwed us. So many flags they should have thrown on the Seahawks that they didn't. I'm like, oh, okay. So the Niners weren't unprepared. It's just the refs screwed them, is what you're telling me. And I can't stand when fans use the ref excuse. I think you probably can too. Usually the kind of fan who would watch me wouldn't use the ref excuse. And I want to say, real proud of Amin the Dream, as a veteran of the show. He goes online and uses, this is how you know he's going to Stanford. He uses George Kittle's words against him. He says, for the people complaining about penalties, he pulls up George Kittle's quote from last week. Remember last week? They beat the Vikings. And Mike Zimmer was the one complaining about penalties after a loss. Never a good look. And he said the Niners holding all the time. Someone brought it up to Kittle after the game. And what did Kittle say? Tell your guys to make better plays. That was a direct quote from George Kittle. So 49ers, you thought you deserved more penalties? Thought the refs screwed you? In the words of the immortal George Kittle, tell your guys to make better plays. In the words of my dad, tell it to someone who gives a shit or a crap. Penalties, that's like the rain. Can't control it. It affects both teams. One week it's in your favor, the next week it isn't. Move on. Tell your guys to make better plays. I like the way George Kittle thinks about it, and I think you guys should think of it that way too. I don't ever want to hear people on my site, the evolved, smarter football fan using the penalty excuse. It's a bad look. Last week, the Niners benefited from it. This week, they felt they got screwed from it. It evens out. You know what you can control? Not getting a safety, not throwing 2 picks over the middle, not throwing to a linebacker. That's the stuff you can't control. Getting Deommodore Lenoir prepared for the inevitability that he would have to play. Getting Trey Lance in the game when it would behoove you. Those are things you can actually control. The penalty thing, that's like rain. Don't talk about it. Kyle knows Trey is the future, but won't be a part of it. Yeah, that's not good. Not good. With the amount of leaks this year from insiders, do you think if Lance was outperforming Jimmy at practice, it would come out in the news? No, I don't think so. I think the 49ers are desperate to trade Jimmy Garoppolo for something to look like they were smart to keep him. And having Trey Lance go out there and outperform him or leaking that info would only hurt their quarterback's trade value. And that's the most important thing of this season. More than winning a Super Bowl is trading Jimmy Garoppolo. Which is funny is they're trying to build up his trade value. One, it doesn't exist. And the more they play him, the worse it gets. do you change your 10-6 record prediction for the Niners? Yeah, I changed it to 9-8 after week 1 when Jason Verrett went down. 9-8 is what I'm going with and sticking with. 9-8. Haberman and Middlecoff, special teams coach, needs to be fired even though he's Kyle's friend. Every kick return was brought back to the 35 or 40. Yeah, I agree. But he won't. You know why? Because he's Kyle's friend. Sorry, but it's like that. All right, everyone. Monday Night Football's on. Let's go check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. See you then. 6-6, baby.